Welcome to section 5, how different foods affect you. This is a big one, a very, very big one. I've got a few diagrams on the board behind me because this is very, very key to understand. Now you'll see over my right shoulder I've written the word fuel. And one of the main principles of the whole program, as you'll see, unless you've already read ahead you'll know, is to think of food as fuel and medicine for the body. Okay, this is a very important distinction. Now, first thing I'm going to do, I want to talk you through the digestion process, just very, very simply, because it's important to understand. And then we're going to talk about different food groups, how they interact, okay, which is key to understand, because most people understand the food groups but haven't got a clue what they do to the body. Right. Okay, now digestion. Every bit of food that you digest, this has three outcomes. It either is used as energy in the blood, goes into the bloodstream, and it can be used straight away. It is stored, so if it's not if it's not used straight away in the bloodstream, it is then stored liver, muscles, fat cells, or it goes straight through and is eliminated. That's it, one of those three. Now, just go to this point. Now, when food enters the bloodstream, what happens, a lot of it is turned into sugar. Your blood sugar increases as you eat and just after you're eating. And then this kicks in insulin, which then regulates your blood sugar. If you get a big surge in there through lots of sugary food, what it does, it's then, you could call it the fat controller. Anything you don't need is then put into the liver, the muscles a little bit for immediate use, the rest is then put into your fat cells. Now if you consume lots of additional calories to what your body actually needs to consume as energy, it will keep coming in and pushing it into those three areas. And the last one to get used is the fat cells. So you've got immediate use in the liver, then you've got your muscles, and then the fat cells. So if you're eating more than you need, it builds up in the fat cells. Not a bad thing, it's there for potential energy use, but of course if you keep doing that, it now becomes an unwanted weight gain. Right, okay, that's how the general digestion system is used. Now, talking about fuel, just to, I want to give you a visual metaphor to help embed this, because this is so key. Now, in my day job, when I'm not involved in health and wellbeing, sort of coaching and mentoring, my job is gardening and landscaping. So I do a lot of gardening jobs, wonderful for health on all levels. As I wax lyrically, as people who know me know well. Now, I have 4 bits of machinery. Now, 2 of those run on unleaded fuel, and 2 of them run on what's known as 2-stroke fuel, which is unleaded fuel with 2-stroke oil added to them. Again, this is how they're manufactured. Now, here are the fuel cans. You can see slightly different shape, one's got a stripe, so I don't get them wrong. Because what happens with the 4 bits, if I put the wrong fuel in, it starts to spit and splutter. If I put too much in or do it on several times, it starts to break down. Okay, now I want you to remember that as a metaphor, because as we go through the food groups, it's a very good metaphor for what happens to the body. Okay, so let's get into that. So, the old Blue Peter fashion is something I prepared earlier. I hope you can see that okay. So what we've done, you'll see if you've actually looked at the written program, you'll see we've broken foods into good for you, bad for you. Now, if we look at it generally, good for you, we've done green light, means it's more in tune with your body and enhances your vibration. Bad for you means it's not so in tune with your body and can lower your vibration and cause problems. Okay, now this is very, very key to understand, because around this is how we're going to form part of the program as we go forward, but it will make sense by the end of this video. Okay, so the bad for you foods, there's 5 that I want to point out. First one is refined sugars. We've covered this in previous videos, all these sugar derivatives, hidden sugars that are put in there. Okay, this is in things like cakes, pastries, mainly processed things, sweets, ice creams. Yeah, lots of hidden sugars. highly processed, that mess around with many functions of the body. Now what happens when we have refined sugars and refined flours, again similar, cookies, crisps, biscuits, pastries, these two, what happens is you get an immediate, it sends the pleasure centre of the brain crazy, as we've covered in a previous video. You then get a massive influx of sugar into the blood, you get rush of energy, and then what happens, this big rush, because it turns into glucose, insulin kicks in to then get the rest of it out of the bloodstream, and if it's not immediately used, it goes into the fat cells. But what happens on this side, you get a big rush of blood sugar, then insulin has to kick in hard to regulate that. Okay, now I'll come back to that in a moment. The next one, HFCS, is high fructose corn syrup. This really should be banned. This is a terrible ingredient that is prevalent in the fast food industry. Now what it does, it's another sugar derivative that is designed to turn off your fullness hormone, your leptin. So you have a load of fast food, hammers your pleasure centre, feel good, feel energised, but you don't feel full. So you've then got the propensity to go and eat more of the stuff that makes you feel good, the bad for you foods. Okay, it's terrible that it's even allowed to exist. Very, very dangerous in fast food. Okay, again, what it does, your system breaks all of this down into glucose, blood sugar spike, lasts for say 2 or 3 hours, and then your blood sugar dips, and then you're craving that dopamine pleasure hit again. So there's a potential craving to go back to this, and this is, you can see why since the prevalence of fast food, the obesity epidemic is just increasing all the time. Okay, so that's high fructose corn syrup, very dodgy ingredient. Saturated and trans fats. Simply put, any fat that goes hard at room temperature is one of these categories: lard, butter, margarines, fatty cuts of meat. Okay, they're not so good for you. There are good fats, which we'll come to. And then simple carbs. Now carbs are on both categories. Carbs are very important because we get energy from them. But simple carbs are in the bad for you group, and I'll come back because it's what it does here. Now simple carbs are things like white rice, white pasta, white breads. Because what they do, which is a big part of certainly the Western diet, your body turns those, goes into your blood, it's turned into glucose, which is basically like putting lots of sugar in. You get a big energy surge, and then what you don't use goes into your fat cells, okay, it goes into your liver and it goes into your muscles, but if you don't use it, the rest goes into your fat cells, okay, and then you get the crash once again after 2 or 3 hours. So you want the pleasure, so you chance you'll head for this side and have more of it. So you're then on that insulin roller coaster. Big boost, crash, one more. Okay. That is the danger with all these. And simple carbs is a big cause of weight gain, with, let's say, lots of bread, sandwiches, lots of rice dishes, pasta dishes. Because, okay, there may not be lots of sugar in it on the surface, but when your body processes that, huge amounts of sugar in the form of glucose, which then has to be dealt with. Insulin kicks in to regulate all this, and if you don't use it, it's stored. So if you've got a high simple carb, let's say lots of simple carbs in your diet every day, which in the modern world happens, and you're having sort of cakes, pastries, yeah, that is where a lot of weight gain comes on, without it seemingly that it may seem you've got a decent balanced diet, but that is the reason why. Okay, so that's the bad for you side, because they're out of tune with your body, go crazy with your blood sugar, give you the insulin ups and downs, which makes you crave more of this side because of your pleasure centre and that crash. Now we go to the good for you, the green stuff. First one is monosaturated fat. Found in things like avocados, olive oils, nuts and seeds. The next one is polyunsaturated fat, a lot of fish, tuna, just general fish, flaxseed oil, poppy seed oil. Now, the obvious thing here, these are natural, okay, made in nature, which are very, very good for you. Next one, fibre. Fibre is your friend, okay, because what it does, it fills you up. Fibre, other things like fruits and vegetables, beans, lentils, soy products. Very, very good for you. It fills you up. It's made in nature like your body. What it does, it regulates your blood sugar, so you don't get the big roller coaster. Keeps it very, very, very gentle, and it gives you that fullness. Next one here, whole grains, similar to fibre, full of nutrients, full of goodness. This is 100% whole grains, by the way. Key, you look for 100% on labels, which you'll see in the programme. Full of micronutrients, good for the body, and again, full of fibre, regulates your blood sugar. Protein, this is your very, very best friend when it comes to your diet. Now, with protein, going back to fat, the bad news is your body is very, very efficient with fat, which means it can store it easily through this system, for your insulin. Very, very little effort needed to store it, just does it. If you take on more calories than you need, it stores in your fat cells, as you know. Now, when it comes to protein, your body has to work very hard to process it. Okay, which is great news because it speeds up your metabolism. Not only are protein foods very good for you and your body needs them because they help run and regulate your system, keep all your systems healthy, you have to work very, very hard just to consume them, and they're all based in nature. We're talking meats, fishes, cheeses, yogurt, eggs. Foraged in nature, very good for your body. Okay, so and that is going to be a big part of your diet moving forward. And the bottom one, complex carbs. So we say we need carbs in our diets, and carbs, again, we'll come back to complex carbs, fruit, veg, lentils, pulses, brown rice, pasta, whole wheat pasta, that sort of thing. Have plenty of that because, again, blood sugar, this is quite important, blood sugar and insulin, it regulates it, you don't get the spike. Okay, so if we look at both, the good for you, we want to put labels on it. Good for you is basically natural, in tune with your body. If we look at the bad for you, it's a highly processed side that mess with your pleasure centres, send your blood sugar crazy, giving you a roller coaster, then giving you crazy cravings, making you want more of this. So you can see, if we, what we talked about in the previous video is the weight gain from the 1980s onwards. If we go pre-1980 and you think, look at the average diet, it was more based on that. And as the food industry has exploded and we've had lots more fast foods, processed foods and choices, everyday choices, our diet has been pushed down towards this side. This is why we have the weight gain and the obesity epidemic. Okay, so going back to the fuel, you can see where we talked about if you pick up the wrong can and put the wrong fuel in, you start to create problems. Okay, and you do that too much, the machinery starts to break down. That's what happens here. You based your diet mainly on that side, it's in tune with your body, it looks after your body. With this, because it's been tampered with, in fact, especially those saturated fats is more natural, but the not so good side. But the other four has been tampered with, the goodness taken out, messes with your pleasure centres, and it gives you cravings. Because these aren't in tune with your body, you get then side effects, sluggishness, bloatedness, acid reflux, headaches. Too much of this, and that just builds up, and then you get major health problems ultimately. Okay, common sense to a degree. Now, just to finish off, of course, as we say, there's no foods off the table. The program, because it's all based on feeling full, satisfied and energized, is predominantly on that side. So what we're saying is 80% of your diet should come from that side and 20% from this side. So you can always have some of it, but done in the right way, where you base your main meals, your general diet there, you'll get that fullness feeling, that satisfaction. Most importantly, you'll feel good, you'll feel energized. This, as we've said, is the roller coaster through your insulin, where you're up, feels good, pleasure center, rewarded, but then you get your crash. Now, eat this the right way with a little bit of this here and there, and you can still enjoy this side, but you're feeling good at the same time from the other. Okay, there's certain combinations which we'll put in the program where you have base your diet on this, then have a little bit of sweet stuff, and you get the best of both worlds without getting this big spikes, which creates lethargy and sluggishness, and then you're ready in the food cupboard late at night. Okay, now hopefully that all makes sense. So yeah, 80% with a little bit of this, because as we'll say many times, life's too short not to have a nice chunk of cheesecake and a little bit of cream, but it's doing it with the right balance. Okay, I think I've laboured the point. You'll see there's more details in the written pack of different food groups. There's plenty of variety in there. So it might seem your diet is less boring, and okay, to a degree it would be, but we're taking out the stuff, we're reducing the stuff that causes all the problems. So you get the momentary delight, pleasure center rewarded, but it creates ongoing problems. So that starts to reduce as you go more towards this, and you feel better, feel full, but there's still an allowance to have all this as well. Okay, I think I've laboured the point enough. Right, that's the end of section 5. Remember the fuel analogy. Put the right fuel in, it works well. Put the wrong fuel in, pick up the wrong can and put the wrong fuel in. Too often, things start to break down, and that ultimately ends up in medical issues and diseases. Right, okay, that's enough for video 5. I'll see you on section 6 video.